Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Nicole Richards, who discusses with us her transition from a long-held career of being a facial makeup artist and one who was recognized amongst celebrities, and she had a long career in that. But over time, she was not experiencing the satisfaction that she was when she originally was in the business of facial makeup and the results of that. And so she learned, as she reflected on herself, that she enjoyed listening to people and coaching them. So what she ended up doing was making a career change or a pivot from facial makeup into coaching. We are featuring Nicole today to help others who might not have the total satisfaction in their current career and they may need a career change. And Nicole offers some very helpful discussion points on how to make that career transition. Marty, what are some of the takeaways we can learn from Nicole?
I liked Nicole's process of thinking through. She thought of moving or felt led by God that she needed to move to another type of helping people, and especially women, feeling good about themselves. In makeup, you want to look good. So she helped them look at themselves after she made them up and think, I do look good. So now she has transitioned to not only feeling good on the outside, but feeling good on the inside.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Marty, that she helps people feel good on the inside, which lasts much longer than the looks on the outside. Let's listen and learn together. Hey, Nicole, it is great to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very interested in learning a little bit of your background of how you have overcome, and it was from what we understand so far is you are no longer a wife, or you were not then at one point, and you were a brick and mortar business owner, and that fell through. So you, to a degree, you lost two forms of identity, and you recovered from that, or you had to start a new beginning, whatever terms you may use. Our listeners are going to be very interested in learning a little bit about the past, maybe how those two events came about, and then more importantly, how did you recover from that? And we're a lot about today and forward, not focusing on and not lamenting about and not seeking sympathy of the past, but so our listeners can identify with you. But Nicole, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, thanks, Ron. Thanks, Marty. Great to be here.
Do us a favor. Can you tell us maybe one at a time how you you are or at least at one point were not a wife, and then losing your business, and then maybe chronologically, in what order did they occur, and how close in proximity to each other?
Yeah, sure. I'll start from the beginning. So I had a makeup studio. I was a makeup artist for well over 23 years. That was my first career. And I had built up my career to having a storefront, to having a team of 15 artists, and they would go out and, paint the town red on behalf of my company. And we worked in the luxury bridal industry in Toronto. I don't know if you've ever been to Canada, but I had a really great career doing that. I guess you could say I was in my Michael Jordan era.
Hmm.
It was going really well. I was a nationally published makeup artist, and I could go on and on and on. I did what I set out to do. And I would say that slowly I started to feel this chipping away at the idea of, I don't know, I guess we describe that as happiness, but really it was an unfulfillment. I was starting to feel like what I was doing didn't really have the meaning that I thought it did. I guess after 23 years and you're getting older, things change. And I would say at the same time as well, my marriage was in decline. And so I was a wife and I was a business owner. And I would say that I didn't know it at the time, but I was really tied into my identity being one of those two things. I'm also a mom, so I got to keep that title. Thank God. I like that title. But slowly, the title of Master Airbrush Makeup Artist, nationally published with a store and a team of 15, there came a day where that was no more. I felt, I guess you could say, a divine intervention or a divine request or a divine recommendation. I would say it was from God to slowly move out of that business and start to wind that down and go in a different direction. I wasn't happy about that. I didn't understand it. Like I said, I was in my Michael Jordan era. Why in the world would I close my business? But I listened to that still small voice that was annoyingly pestering me to to make a change. Obviously, I wasn't being, I wasn't willingly going along with this, but I did it, and it took me about a year and a half to service my last client, and that was in December. That was like December 2019. That was New Year's Eve to be exact. And Marty and Ron, do you remember what happened about 3 years after New Year's Eve 2019?
Let's see, that would have been in 2023 or so.
Like
Okay,
three
help me
months,
out.
3 months, 3 months later, after New Year's Eve
Oh,
2019.
3 months, COVID. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, yes, 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 yes.
Sorry, I might have said 3 years, but it was 3 months. 3 months later, COVID happened. So here I was wondering why in the world did I need to close my business? And a year and a half later, COVID showed up and I got the answer.
Wow.
And so I went on a journey. My marriage had ended, my store was closed, and I went on a journey to figure out, who am I? Now that my title is gone, and I remember thinking when I closed my studio for the last time, I locked the door, and I remember looking up at the awning, and my name was on the awning. And I thought, oh my gosh, the landlord's going to paint right over that because that's what he does. He paints right over it. And then my title is no more, my store is no more. Who in the world am I? And so I went on a journey, I guess you could say a journey with God to figure that out because I had hit the pinnacle of success, the accolades and the title, and that became who I was. And who are you when you no longer have those things? And so that's the journey that I've been on.
Wow. I am interpreting, and tell me if it's not an accurate correlation. You were approaching, I'm going to use the term burnout in your makeup business, which I'm asking the question, did that work its way into your marriage to where the two almost became synergistic first, the business burnout, and maybe you felt the same sort of burnout in your marriage, or am I totally fabricating something?
I wish that was actually the problem, but I think that might be a different podcast.
Got it. Okay. No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
no, that I wouldn't say that that had nothing to do with it, but yeah, there were other measures in place, other things happening. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's focus on your business. And so you were entering, I'm going to call it a new phase, new stage of your life. And very, very common. People saying, man, yep, I have achieved all of the satisfaction out of whatever it is you're doing. I need to move on to a new chapter in life. Is that kind of sort of what you went through in your makeup business?
Yeah, I would say so that sometimes we think that life is supposed to be this straight line. And if we just do all the things that people tell us should lead to happiness or lead to success, then we should be fine once we've hit it. But it doesn't always work that way. And life ebbs and flows. And so I wasn't really willing to make any of these changes because I wanted that straight line. I wanted everything to just be as I thought it should be. But life doesn't always work out that way. And I think that's where that idea of burnout starts to creep in. When you basically should make some changes, but you don't because you want everything to stay the way that it's always been.
So, how long was it from the time that quote the paint was over your name and you're no longer in the makeup business until you found the new life and you felt that yes, this is I'm the new Michael version 2.0, if I could use that term.
I think one of the things, the Michael Jordan, I'm the new version of my Michael Jordan era. I would say that one of the things I've realized going through that process is that life is always a process.
Yep.
And we have to be really open to those ebbs and flows and changes. And so it's almost like every couple of years, the idea of reinventing yourself, the idea of who am I now? As we're getting older, it's really important to have that flexibility. So the overcoming part, I would say it's still a daily journey. Who am I?
Okay.
Who does God want me to be? So I'm going to go in this direction. Now I'm a life and business coach. And that came out of, I would say, my listening skills being a makeup artist. That is kind of a crazy thing to say, but I looked like I was a makeup artist, but really I was a people manager. I was an emotion manager. I asked a lot of questions. I was very curious in what I did in order to make my clients happy. And all of those skills are transferable. And in 5 years, maybe there'll be a kind of a feeling, a gnawing again that we need to up level what we're doing and take our skills in a new direction. So to answer your question, I think flexibility in the ebbs and flows of life and never, I don't know if I really ever want to feel like I've kind of made it through something, but that I'm still learning every single day.
All right. So, how long did it take you to pivot, transition, whatever the term, from being the makeup artist to being a life coach? Was that somewhat pretty quickly, like in a couple of months, or did it take maybe a year or more to bring that about?
I started to ask myself questions about what am I good at and what do I like to do? And although I was providing a service of makeup artistry, one of the things I really like to do is talk to my clients about what they were up to and who they were. And then I also love to like the conversations with family. And I realized that what I was doing and being curious about who other people were was really one component of coaching. And I had my own business coach and I had had my own life coach. And I really enjoyed those conversations of figuring things out and being curious. And so once I closed my studio, I would say that idea came to me quite quickly. I wish I could give you an exact timeline, but within the month, I had figured out I really like having these conversations with people. I really like the idea of growing alongside people. And I started to, I had clients, but then I started to go through the process of being certified. And that took a couple of months.
Was it your life coach who helped you solidify the pivot, the direction you wanted to go to become a life coach?
Yeah, I thought, am I crazy? Like, can you tell me, here's my idea. This is what came to me. Am I crazy? And she said, no, that's actually what you've been doing for many, many years.
Wow. And so it was a logical transition to a degree from what, okay, I guess in some degree, being a makeup artist was somewhat superficial. Your greatest satisfaction came from interacting with people and listening to them. Would that be an accurate statement?
I would say so. Yeah. And I remember one day someone said, "Oh, you're the makeup lady." And I thought, "Am I?" Because I feel like the psychiatrist sometimes. I feel like the, I did feel like, if anybody has gone to a hair salon and you have your own personal hairstylist and you end up telling them all kinds of things that you may never actually tell your friends. And so I ended up in that position. And so I learned to ask really good questions because people would tell me their life story. Right. And so once you're out of problem solving mode, you don't have to solve anybody's problems, but you just ask questions, you can start to see the aha moment go off for them. And I really enjoyed that process. And it was cool to put it together and say, oh, I have been doing that for a really long time. And now I can do it in a greater capacity.
I can tell you, Nicole, based on what you just said, we share a lot of the same spaces, the three of us. Marty and I, in our business, emphasize a culture, and it's a psychologically safe culture. What I'm picturing you as you're describing this, I'm interpreting what you're saying. You have the very genuine, mild demeanor where people can, you garner people's trust, and they feel they can open up to you and discuss maybe some very personal things with you, but they're appropriate personal things because they can trust you. They know that speaking with you is a psychologically safe environment, but you've gained that trust with them. That's exactly the kind of culture that leaders need to have in their various organizations, that they need to be able to develop that trust with people because Marty and I have experience, and likely you have as well. There's some people who, because of family culture and so forth, hold things in. They would never discuss things because, quote, that we don't do that as a family. Just get over yourself, or whatever term it may be. But you seem to be the type person who can, let's say, make the very best out of the person, draw the very best out of them.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I love doing that. I love seeing, and the two of you, I know that you can see this because you just told me all about myself. But I love being able to see the potential in someone and helping them see it too. And then seeing the surprise on their face when they're like, I can do that. Yeah, you can. I can see that in you. And let's actually pull it out and see where we can go with that.
So you didn't actually take an aptitude test or anything like that, but it was through conversation with your life coach that she brought the very best out in you, kind of thing. And together you said, I think that's the direction I want to go. Is that, am I oversimplifying it, or not stating it accurately?
When someone else can see that the best in you, when someone else can actually confirm and kind of validate the things that you're really good at, you get going so much faster. And I think that's why all three of us love the industry and the business that we're in. We get to help people move along in life faster in a more directed way. So yes, my coach did help me validate that. Yeah, I can do these things. I can have these conversations, and I'm so grateful that she was able to do that for me. And now I get to pass that on.
I think what you just said is very important, that you have the ability to validate maybe some intuition a person has, but they're looking to someone else to validate that. Am I really, is this a strength? And Marty and I sometimes refer to it as a sweet spot, but is that the best way to go? Let me ask you, Nicole, for the listener who may be at, may, if not a point of burnout, but they're no longer getting the satisfaction out of what they're doing that they used to. They feel they need to pivot. Can you help that person determine how to get started?
Yeah, I think the first step would be giving yourself permission to question. Ask yourself those questions. What is that kind of like gnawing that I feel inside where you might be going to work or you might even have created the business of your dreams and now you realize it's really not, as you said, hitting that sweet spot. It's not doing for me what it used to. Do I need to make a change? And really being brave enough to ask that question is the first step. That's a scary question. Should I leave this relationship? Should I leave this business? Should I leave this job? That's a really scary place to be, especially if you've actually hit a pinnacle of success while you're doing it. The second thing I would suggest is to go through a process of rediscovery. Do you have a business coach or a life coach or even your therapist? And get someone else into the conversation. Ask, why am I having these thoughts? What do you think about that? And then I guess my third thing is to pray about it, right? Sit with yourself, sit with God, give yourself a chance to ask those questions. How does it feel? What direction do you think you want to go in? I think everything starts with being open to ask the question and then being brave enough to say, "Oh, that is the answer." And now let me see where I need to go next.
And we are faith based as well, Nicole. And I want to ask you, in the context of listening, did you spend a fair amount of time just sitting, listening to God to help settle, or let's say, the still small voice, as scripture refers to it, to have that peace that, yes, this is the direction I need to go? In your case, it's life coaching. But is that a process that you went through, that you just had to sit and listen to God?
Yes, and I would say it's a really important process. As I was deciding whether I was going to close my six-figure business, I did sit with God and I was very angry because I had hit the mountaintop, and what in the world was this feeling that I should be going in a different direction. And once I said, okay, I'll do this. It doesn't make any sense. I felt such a peace. And so what you described was something that was so beautiful, sitting with God and seeing what direction he'll go in. That's in that moment, that's not what I was doing. I was arguing with God. And of course, he wasn't arguing back, right? I was getting complete silence. And so I one day said, okay, I'm going to do this, but you have to tell me what I'm going to do next. And I didn't, of course, get an answer. And so that obedience actually saved my butt, I guess you could say,
Yep.
because when COVID happened in Canada, events were over. They were over for almost 2 years. We were not allowed to have certain types of events. And if I had been stubborn and didn't sit with God, I would have found myself in a very, very different situation where many people lost their business. They lost a lot. And so I do take the time to sit and reflect, to also separate my feelings from what I feel like God is saying. And then, I have to compare notes, I guess you could say at times. What is God asking me to do? What is it that I want to do? Obviously, I should do what God's asking me to do. And if I do what he's asking me to do, can I trust him? Right. And so it's a process. It's a process of listening. It's a process of doing. It's a process of trusting. It's a process of having faith that that still small voice that you are hearing is going to lead you in the right direction.
Now, I'm very interested in the transition and how you actually did this. In the context of COVID, and so just so our listeners know, we are talking to you from Maryland. You're in Canada. Um, and we in Maryland had a lot of businesses literally shut down. Schools are shut down. You have to wear a mask, um, and people were largely isolated. How did you actually start your coaching business? Did you go through formal training? Did you learn from the essentials from your life coach? And then did you start a virtual coaching business before you were one on one? That's kind of a broad, sweeping question.
So I started coaching before I started coaching, I would say at the end of 2018, like into 2019, I actually had opened my business. So I guess you could say I closed one business and I had a runway into the next one before COVID started. And
Great.
everything, we were meeting in person when I could, but because it's the internet, we were also meeting online. So when COVID happened, it was actually already a beautiful transition that I had made because I had already started that business.
Oh gosh, that's great. And so
So
you,
I want to ask, I'm sorry. Um, During your time of what am I to do, you went ahead and started another business.
Mhm.
So you really were prepared for whatever God said.
I was right, but I feel like I'm walking blindly, right? Like I feel like, okay, my coach has said this, it lines up with my skills. I can do this. I've already done it. But you are like I'm literally going into it blindly. So by the time COVID showed up, I had had at least almost a year's runway of being in this new business while winding down the other one. And so it's just, if anybody's listening right now, they're not sure of what direction to go into, I would say sit, take time, use the book of Psalms, pray through it, and see what God would have you to do because we never know what's coming next. And it may not make sense to you, the decision you're about to make, but who knows what it could be saving you from.
I gotta go. Courtney came up.
All right. I want to ask you about income, and I'm not, Nicole, asking for numbers, but you, I'm going to guess, had a reduction in income, maybe not down to zero, but you had a reduction in income until your coaching business picked up and you at least were able to make a living out of it. Am I interpreting correctly?
100% because I had people working for me, which means I was acting like an agency. And if anybody has never worked with or for an agency, the agency takes a portion of what the people working for them are
Hmm.
making. And so it's the quickest way to duplicate yourself is to have other people working for you. And so then they were all gone. And then there was just me. So yes, the income like drastically went down, and it's kind of interesting because then during COVID, we weren't really driving, we weren't going places. So I don't want to say it didn't matter, but it almost didn't, if that makes sense, reflect my day-to-day living because there were so many things I couldn't do. I actually couldn't leave the country. I couldn't get on a plane, right? So there was no vacation. And so again, I feel like I had a little bit of a buffer of time to build a new business while winding down the next. And then our country was shut down. And so it just gave me even more time to dig into working on this new business, which then gave me time to build up. And now it's been 6 years.
So you had, to use your term, about a year-long runway to transition from or out of the skincare and makeup business and start your coaching business. So I guess as you were calculating, can I make it monetarily? You said, "Yep, there's going to be a reduction in income, but I'll adjust to it. I'll live on what I have." But you had the wherewithal, you had the confidence that, "Yep, I'm going to build my coaching business, my fulfillment, everything, and everything has turned out well." Is that pretty much an accurate summary?
Once a business owner, always a business owner. And once you've built something, you kind of have that in your blood.
Yes.
My I hit well over six figures with the business that I had, and I wasn't really sure how to do that as a solo entrepreneur. But I'm still on the way there now, getting back to where I was before. But it can be a beautiful there's two ways that we can take this. We can either make it a very stressful situation because I had this pinnacle of success over there that isn't reflecting over here, or I can take it as a really great challenge and that God is challenging me to climb another mountain, and I can either make it fun or I can make it really stressful. At the end of the day, we have the choice. If we're partnering with God and we believe and have faith that things are going to work out, then we just do what we got to do, and then He's going to do what He has to do.
Yep. Right on. Nicole, I want to ask you, here we are recording, so don't be embarrassed to say no. Would you feel comfortable on another episode talking about your transition through divorce and how you're able to do that? As a faith-based person, I know some people say, well, faith-based people never get divorced. We're not supposed to do that. But then how do we recover from? Would you feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, sure. If we focus on the how to recover from, absolutely. I'm not a shy person, nor am I feeling like I can't share anything, but like I have kids and I don't want them to one day in 10 years find something on the internet.
No,
But
and
yeah,
thank you. And I'm
yeah,
not asking about recording now.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about another episode,
Hmm.
only that part of
Yes.
recovering from
Yep.
and not going into gory details. There's
Okay,
no.
brilliant. Yeah. You'd be surprised.
benefited
Some
that.
people actually want the gory details, and I've had to decline because they actually want to know what happened. And it's like, I can't do that to my kids. But yes, talking about recovery, talking about like where the church can play a role. There are some churches that have divorce recovery programs. Mine did not. So
Yeah,
yeah, that would
and
be
that's
great.
exactly where I want to go. The faith aspect of it, that yes, there's some people who say that how do you recover from divorce and so forth. Some churches are very supportive. There are other churches who want to know how, excuse me, how, excuse me, how best to do that, and we can learn a lot from your experience. Nicole, let's plan on another episode where we focus on divorce, no gory details, but emotionally, how do you recover from that? How can the church be supportive of in those type matters? That I think would be very important for our listeners to learn.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that'd be great, Ron. Yeah.
Nicole, thank you so much for sharing a part of your life story, pivoting from a career that used to be very satisfying, and you have transitioned into another career that is equally, or maybe even at this point, more satisfying than your previous career. There are a lot of our listeners who are experiencing some aspect of burnout, and they want to know they're not alone. And Nicole, thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, Marty, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.